bringing America back. American Dreamers.
ABC's David MUIR with the sacrifices the workers made to keep America's oldest car maker afloat, and the tough decisions at the top that kept Ford building the American dream.
When those first American automobiles rolled off the assembly lines, those early workers were creating more than cars. They were creating America's middle class. At its peak, the auto industry employed more than 1 million Americans. They were the muscle behind the Mustang. General Motors, Chrysler, and Ford spent decades building loyalty in driveways across this country. Ford asking that iconic question. But a far more serious question would emerge in the depths of the recession, whether the auto industry could even survive. Ford alone was $30 billion in the red. Generations of families who filled those plants were growing more and more nervous.
I'm telling you, we were close. I feel personally we were very close to going under.
Dan Kaluka, a Ford retiree after 3 decades.
18 of you have worked for Ford.
Yeah.
So this is beyond a family tradition. It's a way of life.
Yeah, sure.
His son Tom, still building those famed F-150s.
Were you worried about the company?
I think everyone was a bit nervous.
And that's when Henry Ford's own grandson turned the company over to an outsider named Alan Mulally.
I usually get here about 5:20.
5:20 in the morning.
Yep.
Mulally believed the only way for him to save jobs was for him to take a very rare step and for the workers to do the same. They accepted wage freezes and had their benefits trimmed. There has been sacrifice here. Ford would not take the taxpayer bailout or file for bankruptcy. But that new CEO would close 17 plants and cut more than 50,000 workers. Ford would take out a staggering $23 billion in private loans.
You had to lay off nearly half of the workforce. That's a tough sell as CEO.
So we had painful decisions to reduce our production capability and our employment. And if the entire automobile industry would have gone into bankruptcy, it could have led the United States from a recession into a depression.
And it was that same fear around the dinner table at the Kalukas and in homes throughout Dearborn, that motor town of 98,000. Dan Kaluka's father started making the steel for Fords in the 1930s. 4 generations later, still going. Dan's wife, he met at Ford. She was his secretary. Joke in the family, bring home someone not driving a Ford, they'll have to park it out back. But to bring Ford back, the company needed to become more competitive overseas. Mulally knew that, and he knew Ford had taken on too many brands. Once a week, his top management would meet with color-coded charts. And he famously remembers the first time a manager actually held up a red chart, a daring move, signaling to the new CEO that production should be halted on one of Ford's cars.
And so I started to clap.
But you applauded the bravery in someone being willing to say, we should halt this at least for the moment to figure out a better plan.
At the time, Mulally knew that nothing can be hidden if you truly want to bring back an American brand. But still, the automakers were under fire in Washington. The CEOs of the big 3 automakers grilled on Capitol Hill after flying private jets to Washington to request taxpayer bailout money. It was Ford's CEO who, when asked if he would do his job for $1, said he believed he was earning his pay. Convinced he was earning that $17 million in pay because inside Ford, the turnaround had begun. And the workers who did survive were beginning to thank that CEO who took those drastic steps. While upstairs at the plant...
So you have like your little private oasis here.
Yeah, you can call it that. It's kind of my home at times for sure.
That pipe fitter is a painter, too.
So you got to be the only factory worker with your own artist studio upstairs.
I would imagine so, yeah.
The Monet of the motor company. No landscapes here, a portrait of power engines instead.
So I see you've begun to sketch out, I'm guessing, an F-150 here.
Correct. This is definitely an F-150, nothing but.
Painting workers on the walls inside a factory, making a comeback.
If the CEO were here today, what would you tell him?
Thank you.
You would?
Yeah, I sure would. Yeah.
Shake his hand. Most definitely. All right, I don't want to interrupt.
Turns out many would here.
Now we're going to hire 12,000 new employees over the next 3 years.
And about that $23 billion loan Ford took out?
Over the last 7 quarters, we have repaid over $21 billion.
So you're almost there.
In fact, the entire U.S. auto industry is now enjoying its best annual sales in years.
So we're here supporting the gradual improvement in the economy.
And on our walk through that F-150 factory in Dearborn, one more man from Mulally to greet. that retiree named Dan, who had no idea when we invited him back to the factory that the CEO would be coming too.
I don't want to put Dan on the spot, but I have a photograph of him.
Oh, my God.
What a start, eh?
The image of Dan, his wife, their first child, and their other baby, that first Ford Mustang.
Is that a 65?
That's a 64 and a half.
The first one?
First one. Got an April of 64.
And you'll remember it was Dan who told us if he ever met the CEO, he'd say thank you. But it was the CEO about to turn the tables on the retiree.
I know. Thanks a lot.
Are we sitting in a factory of survivors?
These are more than survivors. We are fighting for the soul of manufacturing in the United States. This is the heart of America.
Bringing America back. American Dreamers.